Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Game Emporium and Top of the Box, where some friends have gathered around the table to talk about some board games. And we are, once again, continuing with our adventure into our top 50 as of this moment, midway through 2024. So that's where we are. We're smashing these out before our opinions change too much. That's what's happening. If you don't know us before,
they probably already have.
They probably have, right? My name is Luke, that's Ross, if you haven't seen us before.
Hello.
And we are... This is our third video in our top 50 series. I think we've managed to condense down our thoughts into smaller, bite-sized chunks.
At least we're attempting it.
We're attempting it. It's not hit and miss, but we're doing all right. We're managing to get our thoughts out at least, rather than stretching it for a 2-hour epic. But hey ho, such is the things. Shall we just jump straight into it and see where we go for our number 40?
Oh, I don't know. You can go first. I don't mind, Luke. Would you like to go first? Paper, scissors for it?
With the delay, I feel like I don't trust you not to cheat somehow. Even though I'm delayed, which is weird. Alright, so my number 40 is a game that was quite high up on my list last year, because I had just finished playing through the entirety of the campaign. I haven't gone back to it since, but I want to, because I feel like I've forgotten enough about that campaign that I can go back to do it. And this is The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Nice, yeah.
So this is a story-driven game where you are basically running around the forest as Robin Hood and his merry men, drawing cubes and discs out of a bag to take your actions, moving around Nottingham Forest and revealing, or Sherwood Forest, I should say. I'm English, I know what things are, but you're going around, you're flipping over these little tiles which reveal clues and bad guys that you have to deal with, the minions of the sheriff, all completing this whole long epic saga to try and win the game, basically. And it's a really interesting co-op experience. The movement aspect of it, from the movement aspect and the storybook aspect, just intertwined so neatly. You've got these little wooden figurines, you've got 2 short movements and a long movement. If you don't use the long movement, you get a nice rest, which means you're more likely to succeed on a task if it comes up. The story's great. It's got a whole long arc in it. There's effectively 2 stories in the book. If you've completed one of them, you can run through the second one, which I really want to do at some point. Maybe you and I should do that, just to try and smash it out. But yeah, it's just a really fun game. It's just dropped down a bit because I haven't played it because I played all of it. So it's kind of a I'm not to yet. But that's the issue with a story game, isn't it?
It's just really, it's just really smart design, really. Like, we bang on about it all the time. Every time this game we get mentioned, this game, but the movement on it is really nice because it's so fluid. I don't think it would have been a very different game if you were based on hexes or grids or anything like that. It just wouldn't have the same feel to it. It wouldn't have the same story element almost to it.
You have to physically adjust to being in shadows, and where your miniature actually lands on the map does make a difference. Even a couple of millimeters can affect whether it gets captured or whether it can actually be involved in the next part of the story. And you just go, I can't quite reach it.
Yeah.
Can I just nudge it? No. It's good. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. My number 40 is the first of the Lacerda train that's going to be riding through this.
It's this low. Interesting.
And it is on Mars. And part of that, I believe, is because we've not played it recently.
No.
For me to accurately really rank it in everything else. But I do just remember enjoying it. Mostly probably because it's space and the Lacerda, I guess. So, I mean, it's kind of classic Lacerda. You've got a bunch of actions you can choose to take. The game plays out kind of over you do some actions, but depending on where you are. So if you're in space, the options are limited to that. If you're on Mars itself, on the surface, your options are limited to that. And then each round, there's a shuttle that cycles. And I think from memory, it either gets longer or... I think it gets longer between the shuttle cycles. So the game goes on later. You have to better plan whether the action you want to be taking is going to be one of the actions available on the surface of Mars or one of the actions in space. And that's quite nice because that's a little bit different to some of the other Lacerdas and other games out there, which obviously you kind of end up with a selection of actions. You can kind of just take them whenever, as long as they work towards the optimization of your engine.
Yeah.
But this obviously you've got to do a little bit more forward planning. So, I mean, I know we're probably going to play it soon, potentially even next week.
Next Friday, I think, is probably our plan.
So, if we haven't already finished filming all of these by then, maybe I'll jump back in and say, actually, this should be sitting slightly higher or slightly lower or something like that. I can give a little bit of update on that. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I just need to play it again to really refresh my memory on it.
Because we haven't played it. Last time I played it was my birthday last year, wasn't it? So have you played it since or no?
Nope, I don't think so.
Well then, it's been a while, so we're due to return to Mars to terraform it and do all sorts of stuff. Cool, that's our number 40s then, so let's go to number 39.
So, we're never going to stop saying so. We need a so counter. It's an opening of my
Don't add extra things for me to have to edit in.
I'm going to train myself out of it, though, so you don't have to do that. My number 39 is Tiwanaku.
Nice.
Get it over my tongue.
I wasn't sure whether you were going with that or Teotihuacan, and I was just like, have you played Teotihuacan?
No. So this has dropped a little bit since, and I think it's just because. Okay, hold on. Let me get my thoughts in order. Really nice puzzle game. So it's a bit like Minesweeper and Sudoku kind of mixed together. You're moving meeples around the board to reveal crop types. The more variation you have when you're revealing those, the more points you score. And then also you're trying to guess and predict what crops are going to be on that terrain type. Sorry, I should say terrain type. My apologies. And you could do that because there's only the numbers 1 through to potentially 5 in each group. They won't be adjacent to each other, so there's some rules that help you just solve that puzzle a bit like a Sudoku.
Yeah, and the area size of the terrain type limits how big a crop it can be. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if there's only 3 mountain spaces and you're pretty confident that their numbers 1 to 3 are going to be in there, so again, it gives you a little bit of So yeah, really good. The funny thing is, and I think I say this every time as well, is it kind of tends to end up being a co-op game by accident because you're all trying to solve the same puzzle in front of you. So you're all like, oh, I think it's this and that, and I tend to think out loud as well anyway as I'm going. So that's good. There is a co-op variation on it, but I think even when you're playing competitively, I think you just end up solving the same puzzle together as a group, really. And it just becomes who's more efficiently solving it, I guess. But yeah, really good. Yeah, really good game. It just dropped a little bit because there's other games that I'm more of a non-puzzle game mode at the moment. So I went through a phase of quite like that kind of puzzling game, or a bit more of an abstract game. I think I'm a bit out of that phase a little bit at the moment, so I think that's why it's dropped, but it's still solid. So it's and it's still a game I would play, so still in that top 50.
Yeah, it's a really good production quality as well. You've got all those.
Yes.
You've got that fun little wheel that you can put things together. You slot it in, you screw it all in, and then you've got little windows that you sort of flip around, you twist things about, and it's an interesting design and it's an interesting puzzle. I think there's other puzzle games that have come along since then, like Turing Machine and Archaeologic, which try to ride that same vein. I think, but they are doing it in different ways, and its function is interesting, right? Cool. That's it's a good little puzzle. I liked it. 2.5. My number 39 is a very light, straightforward card game that I came to relatively recently, sort of in the last year or so. This is Fuji Flush. So this is just a fun little card game where if you get the right group of people together, you're playing down different numbered cards. So you can say put down a 2. The next person will also put down a number. If the number is higher than the one you've played down, your card gets flushed and goes away. You have to draw a new card. If they play down the same number, it becomes a chain. So it's now 2 2s is a 4. So the next person either has to beat a 4 or equal it with a 4 or add another 2 to make it 6. And it goes round and around the table until it gets back. If it gets back to you and your card is still in front of you, that card is removed from the game and you don't have to draw back up. So you've now taken out 1 card from your hand. And if you can all manage to get like a 2 train going, then everyone's like, and then someone goes, 18. You're like, you. It's their fault. And everyone draws a card, and as long as you get the right group of people together to play it, it's quite good fun. And it's just a small box card game. You can just shove it in a backpack, take it pretty much anywhere. As long as you've got, I think it's 3 to 8 is the player count, and you kind of have to have that little tongue-in-cheek. I feel like it's very British style of.
Okay.
Ribbing. You're just like, oh, come on, you gotta join me on the 2s, yeah? You gotta join me on the 2s? You gotta join me on the 2s? We don't want this. You remember what happened when he tried to join us last time? He tried to start us off. He put a 3. That, have to have that kind of banterish interaction throughout it.
Yeah.
It's good fun. It's a bit silly. It doesn't have any heft behind it. It's fun to take to a convention, I think.
So add it to the list, Luke.
We'll add it to the list, and we'll take it to AirCon next year, because Ross is definitely going to come to that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's see.
We'll see what happens. Cool. So that is our number 39. So let's go to 38. My number 38 is a retheme of an older game that has been rethemed a couple of times into Red Rising, but this is a more interesting theme for me and more enjoyable for me and Laura. This is Marvel Remix. So this is a retheme of Fantasy Realms where you're basically hand management. You're just trying to take the cards out, place them down, trigger effects, and try and keep these different tags in place so that you can score points from them. And it's based on heroes from the Marvel Universe, so you've got Spider-Man, the X-Men, all sorts of fun stuff in there. The twist on this is you also have a villain card that you have to deal with. And if you don't deal with the villain card, you're going to get trashed for points. They will nerf your score so hard, and it is a bit ridiculous. So you've got this hand of 6. You're just trying to manipulate it so that you end up with the right run of particular tags that get powered up from different points. So you've got someone like Rogue who will copy the tags of someone else and will score points for it and will treat them as if she has them. It's just a really simple card game again. Just play out 10 cards, or take them from the pile and add them in, see what happens, and it's just fun. It's just a nice little card game. It's not too complicated. It's very nicely, I was going to say arted, but that's not the word I mean. It's a nice artwork on it.
Illustration?
Good, well illustrated. That's it. Because it's in that comic book style, and I'm a fan of the Marvel comic books, so it's good. I like it. It's a good game.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. From what you say anyway. Hey, I think we've got our first crossover now.
Do we?
A little bit.
Why is it yours also Marvel?
Just generally from the list so far.
Oh, okay.
My is Hallertau is my
okay.
my next one. So a little bit higher up on the list than yours.
Yes. I'm surprised,
but yeah, I think I don't even know if I'm. It's just a bit of spoilers. I don't think that Agricola is even on my top 50.
It shouldn't be. It's terrible.
And I think there's 2 games which have kind of replaced it. One that's going to be coming up a little bit later, and Hallertau as well. So yeah, Hallertau. I mean, we kind of covered it off already, so I won't overlabour it. But
if you haven't seen that video, I talked about it in the last video in our 41 to 45. But brief overview, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, very brief. Worker placement, but you have cubes instead of like little people that you're putting down, basically, and then the actions become more expensive if more people have done it previously. You have a bunch of cards which you can play, and you can kind of combo off the back of those cards. Otherwise, it works, pretty much the same as every other Uwe kind of game, which is basically you're trying to get resources, have a little bit of farm, and then spending those resources to progress and make some points, basically. So, yeah,
it's a good little farming game, and I think that, as we say, the combos you can get from the cards really makes a difference to it. Because if it was just a straight action selection worker placement game, it probably wouldn't do as much, wouldn't be as much fun. But being able to go, I can fulfill this contract, which gives me this. I can do this, which gives me 1 extra round on my sheep so it doesn't die. I can do this so that I can get this. And it's nice and smooth. It does a lot of good stuff with it. Okay, that's 38. We're more than halfway through. Let's go to 37.
37 over to me. Woo! Hey! I was a little bit surprised that this is kind of, I'm just a bit... Basically, it's Brass Birmingham.
Okay.
And actually, I think I feel a bit weird about where it's placed in here, because I feel like it should be placed a bit higher, but I think it's just a little bit, the theme's good, but it's just not really like, wow. And it's a solid game, but it's quite a tough one to get out to play with people, it feels like. And I think that's why it's a little bit lower on the list than I feel like it should be when I kind of look through all my games. But basically, Industrial Revolution, you're in England, and you're basically moving iron and coal around, and you're doing some exporting, and you're making some beer in this one, if I got it the right way around. And you're basically just kind of keeping an eye on what other people are doing, so that you can make sure that when they need iron, you are producing iron.
Yeah.
And when they need coal, you're producing coal. And then hopefully when you need iron or coal, you're the one still producing it, so you can capitalize off of yourself. And then you're upgrading your buildings in order to score more points. So yeah, it's just really good. I mean, the key bit of it really is you have these hand of cards, which have locations on them, and or kind of building types, I guess. And basically, you're playing those to do the actions in that location. So you're trying to manage where you can do those actions based on the limited supply of cards available to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just I'd say it's a very popular game if you're looking on BGG, Board Game Geek.
It's still number one at the moment.
I think it's still number one.
Yeah. I've played Brass exactly twice. We played Brass Lancashire once.
Yes.
And we played, that was so many years ago now, I barely remember playing Lancashire. Brass
It is
Birmingham,
number one, just to confirm.
Yes, Brass Birmingham we played a couple of months or so ago.
Yeah.
It's been a few months. It's been a little while. And I could see why people thought it was the number one game of all time, why it sits so highly in people's opinions. It's not necessarily a game I will gravitate towards. I'll play it if it's available, but it's not. But I think it's going to be here's a big overhead, and then suddenly it clicks partway through. And I think in the game that we played, it clicked for me a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And I ran away with it a little bit, which was which is a bit of a problem with that game.
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny because I think the fact that it's so solid is almost kind of its downfall in the sense that it doesn't really do anything particularly
Special.
Unique or outstanding.
Yeah.
And so when you then start comparing to some of these other games which are going to be higher in this list, it's because I like that game. And the reason why it's sitting in that list is because it does something unusual or different or interesting or something like that. Whereas this is just solid, which is why it's kind of just like plonked in the middle. Almost.
I don't think it didn't even make my list of the 175, but I think that was purely because I've only played it once.
Yeah, fair.
And I haven't got a huge desire to play it again.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, right? Because if I'd had stronger opinions about it when I played it at the time, it probably would be a little bit higher. Yeah. Or if we'd played it multiple times, then I'd been able to form more of an opinion on it. But because I only played it once, I can't be bothered comparing this with every other game that's coming up. Yeah. So it's not really worth the time. Maybe it'll come back at a later point. Who can say? My number 37 is a game that is the two-player variant of one of the most classic card drafting games out there. This is Seven Wonders Duel. It's dropped a little bit from what it used to be. I haven't played it again, but haven't really played it physically. Kind of don't need to, because on Board Game Arena, it's fairly straightforward and easy to play. But effectively what you're doing, similar sort of thing with Seven Wonders, is you're drafting cards from the table, in this case, where it's set up in different shapes. We're going to be drafting these different cards that will give you resources or science symbols or buildings and get them into your position so you've got them scoring you points as the game goes on. And just working your way through these three eras, getting as much as you can. But what I like about it is that there are different ways to win. So there is the overall get all these points as a win, right? Fairly straightforward. Whoever gets the most points at the end of the game wins. If you don't manage to do that, or if you want to be a little bit sneaky about it, if you can win the tug of war on the military track and get all the way up to one side of the military track, you will win by conquest. Or you can advance your technologies and get 6 different science symbols, which then makes it a little bit more of a take that kind of element where you're going, okay, well, I see you've taken that science symbol. That's the other one that's going to come out that you need. I'm going to take that away from you. It might reveal something else on this card. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's worth me taking this because otherwise you'll just win the game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's just good because even if you get 2 of the same science symbols, it's good because you then get a little advancement token, which gives you a little buff throughout the game. And what I like is you've got that asynchronicity going through it, and you also have the option to add in the Agora expansion. No, Pantheon expansion. That's the one I was looking for. Where you get to add in gods of 5 different pantheons, which is just a nice little development. It doesn't add anything too heavy into it, but it gives you a little extra choice. You can choose to buy the gods to do some special actions. You basically pick up a token and draw 2 god cards and go, I'll take these 2 Greek gods, I'll put this one here where it's cheaper for me on this little roundabout.
Yeah.
And the other one can go back into the deck and we'll worry about it later. But it's more expensive for you because it's really good.
An extra layer of the choice when you were talking about, well, I can pick this thing and that might reveal a new one for you or not. It adds an extra layer on top of that, which is if I pick this card, then I'm going to get that token, which then means I get the selection of the gods and then can pick. Yes. Or I leave it because I really need something else. So it just adds another kind of bit on that choice making. My not like to hate is probably too much. My like to not bothered Needle bounces very frequently
Yeah.
on this. At some points, I'm like, oh, this is a really good, fun game. And then other times I'm playing a bit like, I'm kind of a bit bored, I guess. I don't really know how else to phrase that, but it's that sort of vibe. I found it really frustrating early on because I'm like, well, it seems like the only way to win really is through science or a little bit because you can just manipulate it a little bit, or through victory points. And military seemed like an impossible mission to do. I think I've won 2 or 3 times since through a military thing, but you have to really dominate the military element, and it's quite easy to combat. The science one's a bit harder because there's slightly more selection when it comes to those, and also they give you an extra bonus, which I guess military does a little bit as well with the taking money away. But I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is quite a fun game. Sometimes I'm a bit like, meh. So I think it just depends on the frequency of the playing.
Yes.
If I have a little bit of a gap in between, I'm like, oh, this is quite nice. But if I play, because I was in a tournament, if I play like 10 games in a row, it's just a bit of a slog by the end of it, basically.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's our number 37 then. So let's go to our last one on this list, number 36. My number 36 is it's new-ish. And the reason why it's new-ish is because I got the physical copy of it. And I played it a couple of times on Board Game Arena, and then I played it physically, and the physical copy is a lot better because it's all deluxified and nice and shiny. And this is Le Granja. The Granja with the Deluxe Master Set is the one that I have because it has all that nice board and dice art on it, all that nice upgraded bits. All the boards are like triple layered, so you can slide cards underneath it. The reason why you want to do that is because this is a farm building game. You're building out your own little farm. And you've got these cards which have got 4 different uses on them. So you can put them out as an order to go to market. You can put them to the side to gain income, donkeys or pigs. You can slot them underneath the bottom to give you a special power that can be used throughout the game. Or you can put them on the left-hand side to give you crops. And you're trying to manipulate the resources that you have, the cards you have in your hand, to get money and to get crops that are growing, to fulfill orders, to put them out into the market, to dominate the market in that area, but also to put them out for these little asynchronous powers, or these little powers that are unlocked throughout the game that you can add to your farm that just give you another little buff at the beginning of each round. It's just a very clever game. It's got a huge stack of cards, so you've got a lot of variety that comes out of it, even though a lot of the left and the right hand side of the cards kind of do the same thing across a lot of them. But it's the top and the bottom that gives that real difference. And I like that they didn't bother doing, this is what every different resource is going to be. Every resource has got its own token. No, just a cylinder in your player colour. That's what this is representing at this point, right? So it's nothing too complicated. You don't have to worry about extra fiddly bits going around. And there's just all sorts of nice little bits. And the Deluxe Master Set has all these little expansions in there that have been designed by other designers into this game. So there's like a Stefan Feld module that you can just throw in. There's all sorts of stuff that you can mix in if you're so inclined, or you can just play the base game. And it's just fun. I just enjoy it. What's happening outside?
I've got the bin. It's the bin run right now, so literally a big lorry driving past.
Oh, well, that's fine. I had construction yesterday, so that's okay.
I'm going to pause on my thoughts for that because spoilers, it may be coming up next video. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I really agree with that, kind of the premise of everything you're saying. But I'll cover off maybe a bit more in the next video.
We'll find out soon.
My 36 is Quantum, which is a bit of a grail game for me in the sense that it was a game that I played really early on when I started playing board games. It was almost impossible to find a copy of. It still is. And then I picked up recently. In fact, I can see it hovering literally over my shoulder. And yeah, so basically, it's a up to 4-player game. You've got these planets which you're trying to essentially put cubes on. You put cubes on the planet by surrounding the planet with your dice in the value that it matches it. So, say for example, the value of the planet is 7. You can have a die of 1 value and a die of 6 value on the edges of that planet. You can put a cube down there, basically. Yeah. And so essentially a race to get all of your cubes out into the solar system. But the dice that you're moving around and you're placing, the bigger the number, the faster they move, but also the weaker they are in combat.
Yes.
Because you want the lowest number possible in combat. So If you have your 6, it's a scout. It can travel really, really far. But if you come into combat and you roll in the second, you have to roll another die, and you end up with 12. Obviously, that's going to probably lose the battle versus a 1 and whatever. But in addition to that, the numbers also indicate the type of ship they are. So if it just indicated like Scout, for example, there, Scout essentially lets you re-roll the die from memory, so you can it transforms almost into a different ship. Whereas on the opposite end, you have, I think they're dreadnoughts?
I don't know why you're asking me.
I'm trying to remember what the name of that ship is, the number 1 name. I can't remember what it is now. But anyway, it's basically like let's just call it a Death Star. So you've got like a Death Star-esque thing, and essentially that shoots twice. So it gets to shoot and then also move and shoot as well, which is obviously quite strong. Yeah. And you've got everything in between. And it's the use of those dice that, it changes, how you utilize those special ships really changes the strategy and what you can do. There's ones which switch positions, transport other ships, and all these other bits. So, yeah, really good, very tactical game.
Yes.
It's a little bit of a twist to it because it's a bit of a race. So you can't be sitting around kind of like really strategizing the optimum path because it changes so frequently. And it's not like you're building up in the same way you talk about a space game. I think typically what's conjured in my mind is you're like building your engine up and then you go and attack these planets.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You have a set of dice, you just need to be like pushing them out as quickly as you can and just try and secure them. So yeah, it's an enjoyable one. It sort of sits around in probably forever again in my collection, I think.
Now that you've managed to get a copy of it, it's one of those things. It's interesting because I would consider this to be an abstract strategy game.
Yeah, it wouldn't be far off. Yeah.
Which is funny given your recent admittance of not really enjoying abstract strategy games. I
think it's 2-player abstract strategy games which I don't really like. I don't like that very direct conflict with one individual. And I think so. It'd be interesting to play it 2-player. Whether I'm a bit like I don't really like it in this sort of sense, or I don't like it as much.
Yes,
but yeah, I think it just opens it up a little bit that if someone is starting to get ahead, and this is what happened when it was played most recently. Someone's starting to get ahead. You, as a group, you can combat and collectively keep that person in check, basically, and slow them down. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, good. I haven't played it physically. I probably should because I've only played it digitally, and
yeah,
that was
maybe next Friday. I'll bring it over. It's not a long game.
So. Not a big game. So yeah, we've got a few that we can play in there. Cool. So that is our 5 games for this list, are 40 to 36. Yes, those are the numbers. What do you think? What are the games that fall into your list in this particular section? If you're following along with this journey, let us know in the comments below. We'll see what your list and what your taste compared to ours. If you like what you see, do the like, the subscribe, share this with your friends, tell them what's going on, and follow along.
Tell us what your games are.
Yeah, tell us what your games are. Follow along with our adventures and see the rest of our top of the box episodes right here on YouTube. Until next time, thanks everyone. We'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.